Hello, and welcome to Realign Journey, the unfiltered guide to self-discovery and reconnection. I'm Siera Sambrosky, your host, and together we investigate and discover the ways we have lost touch with our true selves and explore the ways we can reconnect to it. In this episode, I have with me James Valentine, one of my most favorite guests and partners. I feel like you're a partner in my conversations here always. Not just these conversations, but honestly, in my existence in the planet, on the planet, this lifetime, you're a soul partner, and I know that to be true. I love you dearly, James. Thank you for being here again.
Thank you. I love you as well. I thank you for making yourself available. I reached out to Sierra and I mentioned that I had a new book that I really want to kind of get out to the collective. And as always, as is always love between us, she graciously allowed me to be on. So I want to just introduce myself. I had to kind of come up with a quick bio. As we talked beforehand, of kind of shifting realities every 3 months, I was like, wait, I need to update my bio. So I'm going to be reading it, but it makes more sense. So I am a coach, speaker, and author who explores the intersections of quantum physics, neuroscience, and spiritual consciousness. I just wrote what for me is a groundbreaking book called The Journey to Ascension, The Discovery of the Eternal I. And what I do is I help people go from the struggling, surviving state to operating in their more sovereign power so that they can live a life of love, abundance, and bliss. And so that is who I am and what I do.
Yes, that is who you are and what you do. I would say, oh my gosh. And when you talked about the name of this new book that you have out, I actually got chills when you read that. And I mean, I just think we were talking before we jumped on and started recording about how much evolution each of us has had in the last year. And I know that we are not alone in that, and that it felt drastic. Like every 3 months, I was looking back, going, oh my gosh, I'm totally not that person I just was a few months ago, and feeling completely disconnected from that person. Like it had been years in evolution. I know you've been feeling the same. Just whatever you want to share about that. And also, do you consider that the path of ascension, that sort of evolution like that?
Absolutely. And it's interesting you say that because I always kind of, in my mind, kind of separate spiritual awakening from ascension. Because it was very shocking to me as I spoke to my some of my spiritual awakening friends or see their posts, whatever, and that there's still a uh, thing taking place where they're operating in separation, where they still recognize themselves as a separate self, or this is a separate self, or this that I want is over here, and I'm trying to get it over here, and I always equate ascension to the recognition that everything is one, right? And so the journey to ascension is essentially that it's not just for those who are awakening, but it's those who are also spiritually awakening, getting to that space and that place where they go, wait, there's not just this person and this person. There's these different aspects of my self, capital S,
Mm.
capital, of myself. And so, yeah, and I think the journey is the continually expanding into that oneness and even beyond, because now once you reach that oneness, it's how do I operate in this space or in this, in this reality where everything is me and I'm kind of the operant power of my own world. Like it's not this diminishing that there are other people, but understanding that the appearance of another person is they're operating in their own reality. In other words, two people can look at the same situation and have different views of it because they're operating in different aspects of their own world or their own view on reality.
100%.
That
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, so I always look at the journey of ascension as that journey into becoming, knowing that everything is one, and now that I know everything is one, how do I move through my reality as a result of that?
And that's
So
the question, isn't it?
yeah, that is the question, and it's so, and that is what, and Sierra, I'm not, this is it's no, I'm sure this. I was talking to a friend a couple days ago. I say you we were talking about men and supporting men. I was like, to be a leader, you almost have to have some ego, and from that I mean uh, you have to have some preference of this is how I want to operate, this is how I don't want to operate, etc. So there's duality in that. So there's a degree of ego in being a leader as you set boundaries and things like that. So I say that in leading up to this book, I'm realizing that this book for me is something that I don't even think I realized what was put in there. Like I remember
Mm.
reading I remember reading Eckhart Tolle, and I think his first book he talked about the power that he talked about what he received. Like all the writings on on these pages are through him. Like they were not, him just, but they were like he almost in a sense channeled it. And
Yeah,
I'm
you're a
starting to
conduit.
realize, yeah, I'm
We
starting to
all
realize,
are, no matter what we're
true,
creating, it is. And I know, and people hate that word channeling because they
yeah,
think it's all like woo woo,
woo woo, right,
weirdo. You must be, I don't know, possessed
yeah,
by a demon or something. But the reality is whether you're an artist or a chef or a parent or whatever, when you're in your most sovereign state, in your most loving and creative state, you are channeling, you are a conduit, period.
I, that I agree with, and I think where it makes a difference for me is like I've been coming through ministry, being a preacher and being around preachers. I know when someone from the pulpit it's just them. It's just they're not channeling anything. It's just them,
Hmm. Yeah, when it comes from
right?
a real headspace, right?
Yeah, yeah,
I can
exactly,
feel that
exactly.
also. Sure.
So that's for those who are listening. That's kind of how I'm differentiating this because I'm looking back at this at times and I'm taken aback. Like, oh my god, like that's in there, and and I, and it's like, and then something else comes up. Like, wait, all of this stuff is in here, and so it's the understanding that yeah, as we know, this was channeled through me, and really, I should know that because it came from my journaling,
Hmm.
from the beginning of this in late 2022 to really uh, the top of 2025. Like it was just journaling what was coming through me. And so now it's this book. But I recently did, because I'm funneling people into my school community. So I did a live called Delayed Broadcast and Did Things. And this is one of those revelation moments because, and I'm going to explain that to people in a second. But while I was in the wilderness, while I was in Auburn, Kentucky, of course, I'm still thinking it's me at this point, but it was channeled through me that why am I worried about dead things? Meaning, what I'm experiencing is a dead thing that
Mm.
is not, it has no life other than what I give to it, etc. And
All
so
right,
I said
hold
something
on,
like,
time out,
yeah,
because I think that is a really, really important point that I
yeah,
think deserves to be emphasized and possibly even expanded on if you
yeah,
can.
trust
Because
me, I am,
I
yeah,
think so much of people's suffering.
yeah,
And you and I both know from a place that suffering doesn't have to be, but
right,
I think that suffering comes from holding on to what you call dead things,
yeah,
what you just called
absolutely,
dead things. And I
absolutely, and
think
that,
that's really important. And I think if people can understand that you can release those things and also
yeah,
create something new in its place. Like it doesn't have to be this this either or situation. It doesn't have to create this lostness and this void. There can be creation of something new in its place. And also, if you're experiencing a lot of suffering, a lot of stuckness, a lot of
yeah,
frustration, grief, then maybe you're trying to hold on to that dead thing, whatever it is.
Absolutely. And obviously that's where I was at when I was in the wilderness. Exactly what you're saying. I was one of those kind of people who were doing exactly that. Right. So I made a chapter, or there's a subsection in one of the chapters called delayed broadcast and dead things. I did a lot about this recently. But what I recently also discovered that science is that we are we have never ever experienced the present moment. I'm going to expand on that.
Mm.
You and I talking right now, there is a 500 millisecond delay.
Hmm.
So this, like, even as you're saying, and as I explore this, and I'm still exploring this, like, our brain processes our senses at different rates and intervals. Meaning, the brain receives voice or receives sound first. That's the fastest thing that the brain receives. Obviously, the senses, I think, but the slowest thing is sight. So, what the brain does is the brain pauses sound until all the other senses have been collected, and then it renders a picture. So you see me and it looks like my lips are moving with what I'm saying, but really that's your brain creating that. Really, you're hearing me. It's almost like a
Hmm.
kung fu movie, right? Like, you're hearing me before you actually are seeing my lips move, but your brain is creating that, as it seems like it's a seamless simultaneous thing. So what I took from that, like, I even went back to the chat. I was like, I got to expand on this. So really, what's happening is that if everything is a delayed broadcast, meaning it's not happening in this exact moment, like there's a 500, that means a couple of things. That means the me who's a part of that, or the me who I think I am, that's a part of that, is also a part of that past experience. So then it begs the question, where am I at? And
Hmm.
obviously, I know this, and you know this. But for the listeners, if everything, and I'm gonna say this again, and there's a couple of other things I'm bringing about this as well. If I'm experiencing what I think is now on a delay, and that's here, then what's here? And that here is what Neville tells us, which he got from Abdullah, who taught the Kabbalah, is that consciousness is the only reality. It's who you are in consciousness that is in this now moment. This is over here. This has already happened. So if I'm reacting to something that has already happened, whether it's looked at as a past memory or whether it's even this exact moment, then what I'm essentially doing is I'm complaining about yesterday. I'm am I reacting to it? And here's how we experience it on the loop. Here's how we experience it as a continuous experience. My reacting to it now makes it what I'm thinking and I'm feeling, which makes this another render and another render and another render. So what you just said, and I didn't have a chance to go into this in my live, but what you just said is what makes the biggest difference. What if I personally as consciousness am in this now moment, what am I conscious of? Why not be conscious of what I want to experience so that what I had believed to be this now moment now becomes what I want to experience. Like, there's always going to be a delay, but either I can either use this actual now moment, fighting against, complaining, resisting what has already passed, what is already a dead thing, or I can use this actual moment going, you know what, I am this amazing speaker, or I have this much money, or I have this great relationship, and the longer I hold on to that, the now the longer I mean the more this experience now becomes that. It still shows up as a past rendering, but it's at least something I now can keep on loop. And I'm wrestling with, James, how do you even say this even better? So I have to ask, do you get that? Does that register for you?
I mean, absolutely. I
Yeah,
completely understand and recognize
yeah.
that. In fact, it's probably was a month or so ago, but this really helped somebody else that I was working with that I had a conversation with where I said, it's like your brain takes photos the way a camera does.
Yeah.
And if you have a really like high powered though, I think even on our iPhones we have that thing now where you can like hit the button and it'll take like 100 photos in like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so all of these are freeze frame shots
Yeah.
of something that has already happened, a
Already happened.
micro expression, a
Yeah.
micro movement that has
Yeah.
already taken place. And
Already taken place.
so that's the way that our brain is processing it. And so I think in some ways that's a really clear example of a way to be able to explain what you're saying in that it is now you looking at something that has already happened.
Yeah. Like even now, as we're talking, it's already happened. And the other thing I brought out in that live was, and these are things that have just been discovered by science within the last 60 years or so. The
Mhm.
other thing is that and I want to be careful with your listeners, so I ask them to hold on with me on this, or I'm going somewhere with this. But there's no free will in the sense that we think of free will, because we think the character has free will. But science says a person by the name of Benjamin Lendiff, about 60 years ago, 1983, he said he conducted a study, and I won't go into the study. People can look that up, look up his name, and it'll go into it. But he also discovered that before you make a decision, your brain has already prepared you to make that decision. In other words, in other words, what's the example I gave in the live? Let's just use this example. I pick up a cup of coffee, and now I have the thought, I want a cup of coffee. I've already picked the cup of coffee up, and now I'm deciding I want to wait. He's saying that our brains are making decisions still a half second, 500 milliseconds before we even. Oh, this is the example I gave in the live. I said, imagine you're at home and you are deciding if you want to try to make it to the store real quick before you come back home because there's guests coming, right? So you're discerning, like, do I have time to get to the store and get back before so and so arrives? Your brain is already like, and then you come up with the decision of, no, I'm not going to chance it. Your brain has already started moving you toward, no, I'm not going to chance it before you even decide what you're going to do, which also means that our thoughts to some degree and the decisions that we make are not made by the character.
Hmm.
They're made in that invisible space, or that formless space where our true self really lies. And so, yeah, even knowing that we're making, like, even when I reached out to you, I was already, before I decided I'm going to reach out to Siera, my brain already had me moving in that direction. And here's the deeper truth about this: consciousness is guiding our lives.
Hmm.
This is really what it really comes down to. Like, there's a, whether we identify as it or whether we identify as something separate from us, there's a higher power that's guiding our decisions, guiding our thoughts, guiding our movements, guiding what shows up in our reality, because it's all moving us toward this grand, uh, and it's all grand even as we move, but it's moving us, which could even be the journey to ascension. It's moving us to our ascended, more and more our ascended space and person and beingness that we are.
Well, let me throw my 2 cents in about that
Give me a two cents.
because I do think it's true,
Yeah,
and also I think that there are a lot of people who are not allowing that part of themselves or the majority of themselves to be guided.
sure.
And you know, I personally believe you only need 51% of yourself to be in allowance and in alignment and to be willing to receive that very natural guidance, which I always describe, and this is not my own. I think it might have actually came from Abraham Hicks, but where they say like you're naturally buoyant. You are like a piece of cork or a beach ball out in the water. If you stop fucking holding that shit down, creating the resistance, right? Creating the weight, and you and I'm sure, are in agreement that weight comes from patterning, programming, conditioning,
Yeah,
trauma, blah, blah, blah,
yeah,
blah, blah. False perception.
yeah,
That's the
yeah,
quick of it. Your
yeah,
false perception of self. If you stop holding it down,
yeah.
even 51% of you stops holding it down, then exactly what you say. You will naturally be guided into ascension. You will naturally be guided into what is going to be the easiest, most joyful, most loving, best path for ease and fun and all of that stuff, abundance for yourself, hands down.
You
And
know what?
I was gonna say, and also, there are a lot of people, and even myself, I'm sure even yourself, at times where our subconscious, micro, unconscious decision making is coming from the fact that we are already making decisions and choices based on repeating patterns, based on previous experience.
Yeah,
Our
yeah.
human mind wants to default, it's how neural pathways are built, right? Default back to patterns of things that have already happened. That's how it like builds those muscles. And so you have to make that switch. There has to be that tipping point, if you will, in yourself that takes you from operating in that human way into being in alignment with your divine self, which is, connected to the higher intelligence.
Here's what I would say to that. What if that's a part of the guidance? What if part of the guidance is knowing that you're going to ram your head into that wall several times, but that the ultimate realization is you're going to get to is I'm tired of doing this,
Yeah.
which now leads to the expense. Which obviously being in our position, we've had to run our head into the wall a few times.
Yeah. A lot. And
Right, a lot.
even still to this day, like things that you think are totally that you're
Yeah,
so way past. I was
yeah,
I was actually just having this conversation with a friend the other day, like 2 days ago, saying
yes,
that I recognized last week, like, and I don't, you're going to understand this, but I don't know that everybody listening will understand. Sometimes when we move beyond old patterns, when you have even the slightest of it, it feels really loud and really pronounced, right? Because it's now no longer, it's like the princess and the pea. It's now no longer part of your experience.
yeah,
So, it feels like this pea that you're sleeping on, even though you're on top of 10 mattresses.
yeah,
And so I had this experience where all of a sudden, even though it was my decision and everybody was on board and they were all making their own choice to be like, yup, you decide. I was doing something that was really fun to me, really
yeah,
enjoyable. I was having a great time with, and I found myself like super hyper aware of the fact that it was really uncomfortable or unpleasant or even like maybe the last thing ever people wanted to do. And I found it stealing my joy. I found that like self-consciousness coming
mm,
up. I felt that urge to like want to try and ease it or explain to them like, hey, this can be fun and you don't have to, like it was like such old patterning that I
yeah,
thought I had given up 15 years ago. And it felt so loud and so heavy in my body, in my energy, taking over my mind. And even though it didn't even last that long, it maybe lasted like 20 or 30 minutes before I moved through it, it stuck with me. I mean, it's been like a heavy presence that, like, oh Lord, I still got this going on. But that's what you're talking about. That's
yeah.
where that old patterning is actually showing me. and is part of my guidance.
Absolutely. And I talk about that in the book. It's actually called the um, technical term for it is called an extension burst. An extension burst is because I talked about in my journey to ascension how I felt like one day I'm on top of I'm on the top of the clouds, and then the next day something triggers, and I'm like, and like in my study of it, it's called extension burst, and it's because um, the brain is recognizing that we're being grounded or we're being established as this new version. So it's kind of like its last ditch effort or one of its efforts to pull us back into what it has been most familiar with, right? And I even chronicle this with, or even match this to something that Jesus went through. Because I always say that Jesus is my guide, whatever, whether I'm writing it or whether I'm talking. And so when you look at him in the wilderness, which I believe was more of a mental, emotional thing he was going through than actual wilderness, but I'm not here to debate with anyone who may be listening and think otherwise. Um, the Bible says Satan came to him 3 times. With each time he came to him, he's like, "If thou be the Son of God," da 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 da. So I always say that the first temptation is identity. Are you who you say you are? But then it says, and it left him for and Satan left him for a season. And if you look at the Gospels, you'll see other instances where he's being challenged in the same way. One of the temptations was you could be ruler over all these kingdoms. There's an instance in the Bible where they're coming to make him king. That's the same. That's the same temptation. It's just showing itself in a different way. So what I realize is that even as we are, and there's other instances that match the other 2 temptations as well. What I realize is even as we have made progress and on our journey to ascension, have made like there's still going to be moments where we have an extension burst, or whether again something shows up again that looks like what we used to go through, but it's really just to challenge us: are you who you say you are? And usually it's going to happen, and I've seen this uh, almost consistently. It almost always happens just before that next level. Sometimes it's been 24 hours with me. I've been in tears and crying. Like I don't have those experiences anymore, and that won't happen eventually again. But it's just like, man, I can't believe I did. Oh, I know better. Then I wake up in this new revelation, and I'm like, oh, I never looked at that. Like, so it's almost just before we're ready to take that next level or get further down the journey on ascension.
Yeah. I, I
Yeah,
mean, I believe the same and I've witnessed the same in
yeah,
myself. It feels like it's, it's, I always say we're not really tested. I think it's giving you the option of choice.
sure, always.
It's not a test. It's
Right.
that it's allowing you this moment in time to choose which
Mm,
path do you go down? Do
yeah,
you circle back to the person that you used to be, living the way you used to be, in thought, in behavior, in belief, the way you have been? Or do you choose something new? Do you
right.
choose something that is going to be uncertain because you've not ever experienced it before. And
Mm-hmm.
I think this is like one of the really fun things to be able to help people to shift is to say, as much as people fear uncertainty, and a lot of times, even if you think you don't, you do, because it's part of our human survival instinct to find safety, and safety is determined by certainty. That's just
True,
the
true,
given. And that's
absolutely.
why when your sense of certainty and safety shifts from a space of saying my job or my marriage or who I know myself to be, my relationship to my children, whatever that looks like, when we identify that with certainty, then that creates our sense of safety. And so when that shifts, then we feel uncertain and unsafe.
Sure. Absolutely. 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 And here's something that recently, within the last couple of months or so, that I saw myself wrestling with who I am as a divine being versus the belief in a separate self. Right. So I journal around that a lot. I journal around, oh, when I identify as a separate self, all of this shit goes on. Like I'm like there is a need for safety and certainty and you know, but when I identify as the divine, that's a great sense of fulfillment. I don't feel like I need any. So I recognize in real time kind of the wrestling or the misidentification that happens at time. Obviously, we have to, you know, there is this appearance of us being a human and what comes with that, whatever. But when we are identified as what I talked about earlier, is that consciousness, that invisible, formless essence of who we are, that's where I don't, in that space, I don't need safety. I don't need fulfillment because I'm already safe. I'm already fulfilled. And I feel the weight of it. What I, as a, let's say, spiritual teacher, what I ponder most of all is James, are you experiencing this because of all the shit you've gone through to get to this point? Or can anyone step into this where they're now going, oh, I'm a divine being. That this here is a delayed broadcast. Like even the need, even that experience that speaks of not being safe or not being certain, that's already over. Right? Like if I'm in this now moment as consciousness, am I reacting to that? Or am I here being conscious of what I want to experience or what Neville calls what he calls it assuming um power assumption, something like that. What's this? I can't think what Neville calls it, but
I,
it's assuming the state of the wish fulfilled. I think that's how he says it. But am I here assuming that I'm already who I desire to be, or am I identifying with what is no more? Am I identified with the dead thing? Because when I identify with it and I give attention to it, what I'm doing is I'm giving life to it. I'm trying to resuscitate it. I'm making it more live and I'm giving more life to it than it's trying to die. It's literally trying to die. But when I go, this is what happened to me. This is like that's yesterday. Literally even in the same moment, that's yesterday. I'm in today. What am I doing with this actual now moment? And the other thing I wanted to bring out too, and I talk about this in the book as well. I talk about antagonists. I created, and I think it was late last year or early this year, I created a collage. And in the collage, I put a picture of every antagonist that that has
this is
played
a
that role.
very interesting practice. I can't wait
Yeah,
to hear how this goes. Okay, so
yeah, this gonna be pretty awesome. This is
your
gonna be really awesome.
antagonists.
Yeah, my antagonists, those who have said something, done something, whatever that has been triggering in some kind of way, or talked about me, or whatever. And in each picture, I think it's probably like, and don't get twisted, I'm in the picture. I
Mhm.
got myself right
Sure,
smack in
sure,
the middle.
sure.
Right. So in each pictures of them smiling, right? And under that, I use Ho'oponopono. The purpose of initially was for Ho'oponopono. And underneath these pictures, underneath the collage of pictures, I'm sorry that I enlisted you to play this role
Mm.
of antagonist in my life to show me what I believe about me. Please forgive me for having you become someone you're not. Um, Sorry, please forgive me. I love you for stepping into this role. Thank you. So it began, what it's really about, even my own picture in the middle, is about recognizing that I elected each and every one of you to play the role that you played so that I could see not who you are, but that I could see what I believe about me. And knowing that with addressing that and correcting that, you all have to change. And here's the biggest thing. The way I look at it now, the way my brain is processing now, I'm looking at it as if it's a rap party. Like maybe the play is over or
Mm.
and everybody's like, hey, that's why I have them all smiling, because it's like, hey, we just did what you had us do, right? So even now, I look at the people differently than how I looked at them. Like, no, you didn't do anything to me, but like you played the role, because if I'm a divine being, and you know this, they're divine beings as well. We just talked about
They
how
are,
life
whether we like it or
right,
not. Because sometimes I like to think
right,
certain people
right,
are not,
right,
but they
right.
are.
They are. And as we talked about, if life is guiding us, if our higher self is guiding us on our journey to ascension, to our more expanded and ascended self, then they were a necessary part of that. We would have never got there. I know me, I would have never got here without them at all. At all. Even the trick, even the moments where I'm thinking I've come a long way, and then I'm triggered, and no, that's important, because that's showing me, oh, James, you still have some more work to do around this area. And then when the next trigger comes, based on, I can go, oh, I'm good with that now. So they are just playing as divine beings that really are just the same, which really are just expressions of the same divine being we are. We elected them. We
Mm,
elected them. They're not even real, to be honest with you, but we elected
no,
these.
I know. Listen, it's one of the most frustrating things to like actually understand, right?
And that, right. And
I
that
was
comes with, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I was just gonna say, I had somebody that had the whole conversation and like was talking with me, and they're like, "Well, Sierra, you say I get to choose, and that it doesn't have to be that way." I know you and I have had the conversation about like healing doesn't need to take place because we
Yeah,
already are. It's
already
just
are.
about
Yeah,
shifting your sense of self-recognition. That's it.
absolutely. That's it.
And I know we've talked about that in other podcasts, so that's a note to anybody listening. Go back and listen to James and
Yeah,
I other episodes because we
I
talk about
definitely want
that.
to figure that
But
out. Yeah.
but so with that being said, then do I really need these other people that have caused us a lot of heartache and pain to show up to present to me what I need to see that is false that I'm perceiving about myself? And the answer to that is no.
Absolutely.
However, I my comeback to them was that like much to as you've been saying, James, there's this natural pull to actually experience things easy and fast. When we're not thinking this is so hard and it takes forever to
Yeah.
transform and to heal and all this other stuff, the universe, higher intelligence will pull you in the fastest and easiest path. And sometimes the fastest and easiest path is in the expression of another being.
Absolutely.
And so, do
Absolutely.
you have to choose that? Because I have actually full on at other points in time in my journey been in a dynamic with someone, and I have like been like, okay, I will fucking repeat this again. I don't care, but I'm done with learning it this way. So just end this shit right now because I cannot handle this person and this
Right.
experience anymore. I'm tapped out. We'll revisit this again at a later point. And you know
Right.
what? Something happens and that person, that experience gets removed because it's not always a person, sometimes it's just the experience.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it will get removed, it'll move on. And I am happy to say that not always did I actually need it to show up again in a different form. Sometimes it did
Right.
in a
Right.
gentler form. Or one that when I was had a little more capacity to be able to get what I needed to get. But sometimes it is the easiest and fastest form is in another being who can sometimes be really abusive and hurtful and just like a lot of really horrible things. Sometimes it's not as bad as that, but sometimes
Right.
it really is.
No, no, you're absolutely right, and that's something I talk about in the book as well. I talk about like my whole ascension journey began as a heartbreak. I would have never been on this path. I wouldn't even know that this was a path, except for going through that heartbreak. And then even after I began the path, it wasn't like, oh, even recognizing, oh, this was meant to put me on the path. Didn't mean I still wasn't triggered. Still didn't mean I didn't do things as a separate self that, James, why are you like this? That doesn't match the ascended self, right? But it was all getting all that stuff out. But I only believe that the primary purpose of relationships is for expansion. That's always my like. It's like I know for many of us, it's for the love, and it's like a period at the end of the sentence for a lot of people's life that, oh, if I just find this person. For me, it's primarily, what is this person here for? What they come to teach me? Like, that's my first mindset. If that becomes love, then great. But my mindset is always, oh, they're here to show me something. Because you know, the relationship I was in recently. I'm not in that relationship anymore, but I totally recognize what they came to show me about me, but I also recognize what I came to show them about them. And I still say that's one of the most amazing relationships that I've had. But I recognize it as, oh, I didn't see that part about me before. And really, it was a part around lack, and my belief in lack, and my belief in not enough, not as a person, but my belief in terms of resources, that there's
Mhm.
not enough resources. It's like, oh, that's what they came to show me. And I had what I had to show them. But I only believe the primary purpose of relationships is for your expansion and evolution. So yeah,
I
even
know.
even I.
I would say we should do a whole nother episode on relationships because I have so much. I also have always had such a clear understanding. I always say, like, it's the equivalent of going to nursing school and then you have to
Yeah.
go do your practicum, like you have to be in the field, or a doctor, right? It's like your residency. So all the things you think you've learned,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
all
Mm-hmm.
the lessons, all the knowledge, all the
Mm-hmm.
self-help, all the stuff, it puts you into practice with those things. And it is meant to deepen that knowledge into that place where it moves from just being like head knowledge to
Right.
actual soul wisdom and like full alignment. And that's not always comfortable.
Not at all.
You know,
And look,
sometimes we get it down, right? Like you said, it's like the same thing. Sometimes you go into labs and you're like, hell yeah, I got
yeah,
this. Bam,
yeah,
bam, bam. And then sometimes you go in there and you're like, oh Lord, I hope I remember this right thing because oh shit, now there's a fire.
and
Right?
look, I told you before we hopped on, I have a 13-year-old cousin. Well, I might be able to turn water into wine by the time she leaves. Because that's going to be, and she's very headstrong. She's very, she thinks she's in charge. So it's really going to be a lot of, and I told her, I said, when you get here, there's a lot I'm going to learn from you, and there's a lot you're going to learn from me. I'm actually really excited about it. But even that, Sierra, like even that came. Well, I won't get into why that came about, but it has everything to do with that collage that I mentioned. But it's like I need to, and even I can take a step further back. I talked about how decisions are made before we make them, right? So I received that it's now time to. I'm thinking I need to get my daughter. I need to get her here with me, but it was the guidance that caused me to move in that direction to get her here with me, because I would have never, and with all of that, and here is where the antagonist shows up again, because really antagonist for me is just now picturing of our own mind. I thought, should I be doing this? Does this even make sense? Will the judge even be okay with this? Because it's not just, because right now we have joint custody, so it's not just her changing residence. I now have full sole custody. So it's like, should I be doing this? What will the judge be okay with? And all of this took on a face and a voice. I'm thinking this of my own self, and now it comes back at me with a face and a voice. It's not them. this is out picturing of what was going on in here. So, for those who are listening in those kind of situations, you go, I can't believe it, da da, or you go, shit, that's me. But then at the same time, when you going back to delayed broadcast and their things, when you recognize that even your thoughts is on a delay, whether it's a thought or whether you're seeing something in your reality that seems to oppose you, it's still the question of, am I going to react to it? Because it's not about that you had the thought. It's not about that resistance has shown up. It's always, always, always about how do I respond to it. And already being in that space of I'm ignoring the appearances that I don't want, that I don't want to give life to. I always in that space of I'm not gonna worry about what is showing up. I'm not even gonna worry about what appears. I'm not gonna worry about the thoughts, which I fully believe is the reason why the judge says, okay, you know, she's gonna live with you in Vegas. Um, because even my mindset was, I'm not gonna blame, accuse, or attack. I'm not gonna make this an ego moment of whether who thinks is the better parent, which one of us thinks is the better parent.
Right.
I recognize that I have to operate in this from the place of my divine being. But like I said, even now I'm recognizing, oh, I never made that decision. That decision was made even before I realized that that was even a decision to make. So it goes back to that guidance thing again. Like even what shows up that seems to be opposing us or resisting us or helping us or even a win, it's all guided. It's all guided for me. For me, it's all guidance.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And it is
because
for all of us. It
yeah,
really is. It becomes about learning how to recognize that guidance and how to
yeah,
allow that guidance more and more because it is always present for all of us.
yeah. And even what you just said, as far as allowing the guidance, for me, the first thing that came up to my mind was, wait, there's no separation. Like we're part of this ocean of consciousness. There's not a me and there's ocean. I'm part of that ocean. So everything that happens in there is a part of the unfolding. Right? Like for example, here's a space that I'm in now. When I wake up in the morning, I recognize where I recognize that I'm awake and where I'm at and so forth. It's like there's what's called spatial recognition of life around me and all that.
Hmm.
But I wake up and the first thing I say is I am. What that does for me, that puts me here, and it puts this, bed and time and all that as an appearance that's a delay. Like I wake up in the morning recognizing that I am and that this is a past experience that's on delay. And through the course of my day, I talk about baby girl being here and she's thriving and she's happy and all of that, so forth and so on. So I'm looking at, it's like this is always where I'm most careful because I'm still fleshing out the best, most for dummies way to explain this. I'm looking at this experience, like say this experience that we're in right now. I'm looking at this is already past. I'm looking at baby girl already here, thriving and happy and all of those things. So I'm walking through the course of my day, whether I'm driving or whether I'm walking or whether I'm heading to the gym. I'm always looking at that as the James that's experiencing this, and this experience is past. I'm at, I'm with my daughter dropping her off at school. That's my reality. This isn't my reality. That's my reality. And so I know even not to react or give much, have a sense of detachment from even this. Right. So I am like it's my purpose to always be conscious of the fact that I am consciousness. That I am consciousness that this isn't, again, even the James that's in this moment isn't who I am. And I think that's what those two things really bring out for me. Because if everything is on delay, as I mentioned when I first came on here, where am I at? Where am I at? And I think if your listeners, And those who hear this just explore that. Like, this isn't woo woo. This isn't religion. This is science
It
saying that
truly is.
you are
Yeah.
not here. And so if we just explore, well, where the hell am I? So much would open up for us.
Yeah.
So much.
And this is the reason why that collective consciousness and us understanding and recognizing uh, that what we are is what all is. When
Yeah.
we make it an effort to shift our consciousness and to ascend that,
Yeah.
then it does create an effect on the collective level. Because as you do this work for yourself, whether you're doing anything else for the outside world, it does have an effect. And so that is the reason why you are so very, very important here, my friend.
All right. I appreciate that. I was telling the artist that I think this is the new um the new face of manifestation, of what we call manifestation. I just call it
Hmm.
reality shift because the more I begin to understand what Neville has said, what other spiritual teachers have said, that consciousness is the only reality, that where you are in consciousness is the actual, your actual truth. That lets you know, wait, and I used to have this, I was at one point branded as a manifest coach. My tagline was, the moment you think it, you have it. I had no idea, especially from what I'm experiencing now, how much weight and revelation and truth that actually was. Because
Hmm.
the moment you do think it, you have it. You lose it when you start reacting to that again. But because this is what you're conscious of, it will become that, right? But if we're looking at, well, it's not there, where is it? Now I'm reacting to this. Now I've lost
Hmm.
it.
Hmm.
But I think and this also comes from my study of NDEs, because when I went into the wilderness, just bring that up, bro, it was like I'm going into the wilderness to reconnect with soul. And I talked to you and your audience about how one of the things that helped facilitate that was looking at NDEs, because it was like, okay, so this is what it looks like to be in soul. This is what it looks like to be misidentified with the body and the mind to some extent. And they would consistently say, I would think something and then it would appear. That's one of the clues right there, that the moment you think it, you have it. But because we identify as this body, because we identify with the experiences that are going on, we lose it and we don't have that level of experience, but we can.
Hmm.
That's the truth. We can.
It's just a
And so,
limitation of thought.
yeah, just the limitation of thought and being fixated and over stimulated by this dead thing, this delayed broadcast.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
not even happening now, but we treat it as if it's happening now, and so we lose where we want to be in consciousness. So yeah, I'm excited.
I mean, I'm excited. We're all excited. James, tell everybody where they can learn more about you, where they can get your books, how do they connect with you and follow you?
Absolutely. They can follow me on. Try not to spend a lot of time on social media. I really don't. Um, but I'll say this: they can find me on LinkedIn under James A. Valentine. But what I'm really creating now is a school community where I can just get on there and teach. I ain't got to be on social media. And my name of my school community is the Journey to Ascension. And also, I'm going to send you a copy as well. But I have the first 50 people that join my school community get a free ebook, um, and they get this in real time where they can now apply it to their specific situations in life. So find me on school at the Journey to Ascension or LinkedIn at James A. Valentine.
I love it. I love it. I always love having you. I feel like we could make this. I, w- will you come back on again sooner rather than later?
You just send me a text or an email or something, and you
I'm
already know.
like, I feel like we barely skimmed the surface, and I try and keep these at like 45 minutes. We're pushing an hour right now. So we're gonna wrap this, everybody. James, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you dearly, and I can't wait to have you on again. And to all of the sojourners that joined us here today, I hope you found great nuggets that you can take with you that will impact you and expand you. Don't forget to like and share, comment. We love to hear from you. And until next time.